So if you've been around my channel at all in the past week, you may know that I did a video on Borderlands 2 version 1.1.0 because that to me was the best version of Borderlands 2, the one I had the most fun with. You guys really liked that video, so I figured why not do the same for Borderlands 3 and go back to, again, what was in my opinion the best version at the best time in that game's lifespan. So today we are taking a look at Borderlands 3 Mayhem 4, and not just playing on Mayhem 4, but actual Mayhem 4 right around the time that DLC 2 was released. I really hope you guys enjoy this one. Alright, so here we are. We're on Mayhem 4 on Borderlands 3. And I don't mean Mayhem 4 as like by choice we set our Mayhem. We're literally on the update for Mayhem 4. I'm actually really excited for this because with the Borderlands 2 1.1 video, I didn't really know much about what was going on back then, but this is way more familiar to me because it wasn't 10 years ago, it was 2 years ago. Alright, so here we are. We're in Sanctuary, and as you can see by my level, it is 57 because that was actually the max at the time that this update was out. But additionally, as the name of the video would mention, Mayhem 4 was the cap. There was no Mayhem 5, 6, 7 or 8. That wouldn't come until Mayhem 2.0, which was released roughly a month after the time that this patch was live. Now, just like Borderlands 2 1.1, there is also quite a lot missing from this version of Borderlands 3. For example, if we go into Tannis's lab, you might notice that the Borderlands science machine is missing. What is cool is that there were some DLC out at the time that this patch was live, like the Handsome Jackpot, that was DLC 1, and also DLC 2, which I haven't started on this character, but once this video's up, I might be live on Twitch playing through it on Mayhem 4, so be sure to stick around for that. Okay, so I'm on Athenas, and there's something that I just noticed about the character I'm playing, which is Zane. Firstly, in this version, Zane does not have his fourth tree, but additionally, this was before the update where they gave splash immunity to anybody who picked duct tape mod. For those of you who are unaware, there was an update to Borderlands 3 near the end of its life cycle where they basically made it so that one point into duct tape mod would give you immunity to explosions and basically every splash damage. Also, I don't know if this is different, but I'm definitely thinking it is. I'm sure Death Follows Close in current BL3 is at the capstone and Seeing Red is in the middle. I believe this was before they swapped those skills around, and I'm sure there's some in the green tree that are like that too. I'm honestly not that knowledgeable when it comes to stuff that was changed with skills. I didn't keep up to date with it too much, but that does definitely seem a little weird. Another neat thing about Mayhem 4 that people might not remember is that this was at a time where the Guardian rank skills like Hollow Point weren't getting crazy stupid Mayhem scaling, which means they weren't one-tapping everything within a 500 meter radius. Alright, I'm at Grave Ward because I want to show you guys something which I think a lot of you would have forgotten about during this version of Borderlands 3, and this was eventually changed with Mayhem 2.0, but this is the no guaranteed anointments. Yep, that's right, on Mayhem 4, it was not guaranteed to receive anointed loot from a boss, and they're actually all anointed, which means this is kind of a bad example. And you know what, I've actually just realized here, this is another thing which would later on change, is the drop pattern for Grave Ward. I don't remember why they did this, but in the current version of Borderlands 3, the loot just kind of falls from above. Alright, we got 2 more anointed pieces of gear. I wish I had this luck when I was farming off camera last night. However, we did get a Widowmaker here, which does not have an anoint. But the main point that I want to make with this is that yes, eventually, pretty much every drop that you'd get at endgame would become anointed. It was basically impossible to see something that wasn't anointed if it were legendary. Also, for those of you who remember, here's a little bit of nostalgia. The lob, but the Mayhem 4 lob, because this was actually when they buffed this thing to be basically completely different. The lob went from being, I believe, a single shotgun that did no damage to being a 3-round burst machine. But despite the lob being good, is it good enough to make the clone deal damage? Because that's right, back in this version of Borderlands 3, the clone hadn't received its huge buff by then. That would come around the DLC 3 time, I believe, which means if I place my clone down, even with a lob, he's just not gonna do that much work to Tron. I mean, look at that. That is ridiculous. Now, if I shoot Tron on the other hand, you'll see that it's a totally different story. And this would be a big issue not just for the Digiclone, because action skill damage as a whole in Mayhem 4 was pretty terrible and was only really used as a gimmick. God forbid you were using Moses Iron Bear, which at that point was just an anoint procker. Now I'm back at Sanctuary because I want to respec real quick, but back on the subject of anoints not being guaranteed in Mayhem 4, I want to further elaborate on this and show you guys why it was such a big deal. Because for those of you familiar with this area of Sanctuary, as I'm sure you are, you may notice something about where I'm at right now. And unless you can't see anything and you've been living under a rock, there's no anointment reroller. So during this time in Borderlands 3, you were depending on getting the gun you want to drop from the boss and then getting the anointment on it, because if you didn't, it was time to do another run. There was no re-rolling anointments at this time. And funnily enough, while we're here, we're at Moxie's bar to talk about some of the things which I believe Mayhem 4 did better than current day Borderlands 3. I'm sure there's going to be a few of you who remember this. In the future with Borderlands 3, Gearbox would start buffing certain guns to astronomical levels without any explanation as to why, and some of the things which would receive these buffs would be the crit and the hail, two blue unique weapons which you could literally get for as low as $100 if you were lucky enough. But just how much did they buff these weapons by? Well, while I haven't looked into it, many people say that the value is 600%, and after using them in current Borderlands 3, I can definitely vouch that that sounds about right. Oh, we're here, baby. Mayhem 4, Maliwan Takedown. The best way to play Maliwan Takedown. You know, I'm gonna use my wedding invitation to just pop some heads at the gate here. Oh my lord, man. I know you guys are feeling the nostalgia rush back to you. I don't want to be that guy, but it feels marvelous. You know what? I might even just use this Killer the Wisp to start killing mobs here, because yeah, that's right. It used to do that. That's what Mayhem 4 was all about. I might even swap over to the freshly buffed Lob and take out this little commando here, because yeah, the Lob really started doing that in this version. I tell you what, I think I know what we'll do. Why don't we pull out the recursion? Why don't we take a look at the recursion? I know that you guys have probably been screaming, when is he going to look at the recursion in this video? Alright, let's take a look at it. But gamers, why am I taking a look at the recursion? Why am I taking a look at this gun? But that brings us to the final stop in my video on Mayhem 4. The recursion played into one of the biggest and most broken exploits in Borderlands 3's history, the extra projectiles meta. But you know, I think in order to truly get across just how broken this was, I can't do it on Zane. I need to switch character. Yeah, you know what? I think that'll do. Thanks, Moxie. So for those of you unaware, the final thing we're taking a look at today is the extra projectiles glitch. So early on in Borderlands 3, there were these anoints which on action skill end would give you a bonus element. However, the problem with this is that instead of adding that extra damage to your projectile, they would give you a completely new projectile, allowing you to do disgusting things with guns like the recursion, which was bounce between enemies. All of a sudden, you didn't have one projectile bouncing between enemies 5 times, you had 4 projectiles bouncing between enemies 5 times, quadrupling your damage basically. And one of the most popular builds that would take advantage of this was Moxie's Ricochet Witch build, which would use Amara and Indiscriminate to take full advantage of this completely busted exploit. And I don't think I need to say much about this apart from just letting you guys witness it. Now bear in mind that this build isn't actually level 57 and the recursion I'm using is only level 50, so that should just give you an idea of how powerful it actually is. But in case it doesn't, those flashing lights do symbolize that the Kraken's ready to come out, so why don't we deal with him in the only way extra projectiles knows how. Yeah, that'll do. Oh, yeah, baby. You know what time it is. You know what time it is. It's time for the Valkyrie squad. Oh, baby. Oh, that is just something. And now for the grand finale, boys. Here we go. I think you all know what's about to happen here. It's time for the threesome. Oh, my goodness. There they go. Have you ever seen something so beautiful? And you know, actually, as my performance here takes a hit from using the recursion with extra projectiles, this does bring up something that I want to talk about. My performance is a lot better here than it is when I use like a recursion on Zane in current BL3, which doesn't even have those extra projectiles. And I actually think Mayhem 4 ran better too, which is super weird because you'd think that the newer versions of the game would run better, but this is running way smoother than my current version of BL3 does. So as we approach Wotan here, here's another thing that I want to show you guys that was in Mayhem 4 which isn't in current BL3, at least not at the time of recording this video. I can walk up to a vendor and don't have to worry about crashing, because for those of you who didn't know, towards the end of BL3's life cycle, going up to a vendor and popping open the item of the day view, which is automatic, has a chance to crash you, and Maliwan Takedown was the worst for it. Like literally people just can't play Maliwan in current BL3 because every time they look at a vendor, it just crashes their game. Well, not in this version of Borderlands 3, you can look at a vendor as many times as you want without the game crashing. Euphoria, baby. So I will say, as we approach Wotan here, there are things that Mayhem 4 didn't do as well as current Borderlands 3 did. Like we talked about, there was no anoint reroller, and there wasn't guaranteed anointments, which made farming far more RNG packed. And I think it's important to point that out, that while Mayhem 4 in my eyes is prime Borderlands 3, it's definitely not free of any issues like base BL3 is right now in current day. Same way that Borderlands 2 1.1 in my opinion is a better version of Borderlands 2, but wasn't free from the issues that it did suffer from. Hey, don't choke Epic, don't choke Epic, don't choke Epic, don't choke Epic. Oh my lord. Honestly, that's a kill that Moxie's gonna shame me for, but hey man, it's been a while, let me live. Man, I have had so much fun playing this. This is an unbelievable experience. Again, if you're watching this video, then I'm probably live right now on Twitch streaming the wedding DLC on my Zane, so be sure to stop by for that. And additionally, just before we end off this video, I do want to remind you guys that code NNG is currently 30% off at G Fuel, so if you want to pick yourself up some G Fuel and save yourself some money, please do so. The game is on that note, I think that does it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for all the support on the channel. I really appreciate it. Gamers, take it easy. Have a good one, everybody.